Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the CQ podcast. This is your host, Fatman.
And M94.
So, M94, I know for a fact that you are pretty into football. Uh, and we have a friend group, right? In our friend group, that we all guys are pretty into football.
Yeah.
But I am the only person who doesn't know football. Uh, and I thought it would be a really interesting topic for us to talk about football. Yeah, so over to you, M94.
Yeah, my point of view from football is like probably one of those most important things in the world ever. Probably one of the most important things in the world ever. Football. Now, really is important because one, we grew up with football. Uh, Even though Sri Lanka is a very cricket mad country, we grew up with football because it's such an easy sport to get into. I've been playing for grade six. Yeah, for 11. So
You played for your.
yeah, for school. So it's been a long time. So I've been playing for a long time. It's just part of us now. The thing is that you get into a sport, like it's a team sport, so it's you kind of build on ideals of like teamwork and like being together. And that's also important when it comes to sports, the social aspect of it too. So even while playing, also watching sport. So watching like association footballs, uh, the European competitions or like World Cups. A lot of people are into World Cup, just World Cup, the spectacle of it. Uh, a billion people tuned into the last football World Cup final. A billion people, literally the most populous, probably the most popular sport on earth, just by views or people playing it. Um, Finally in the Olympics. So yeah, Sri Lanka doesn't have a good history with football. Recently, I just saw a ranking, FIFA ranking. Sri Lanka is one of the bottom teams. Literally, one of the worst teams in the world, ranked like past 200, which is disappointing for someone who's been like playing football and like loving football. To see Sri Lanka is past 200, I think 204 or something like that.
So is that a good thing?
It's not a good thing. We ideally should be ranked way above.
Because we have better football team than.
No, okay, we don't have a good football team, but
Why are you disappointed that?
yeah, we should be there. We should invest in football too. We should invest in all sports in equal amounts, not giving preference. It's in our system. Like even our schools prefer certain sports to the other. So there's no equal funding or equal sponsorship or equal value given to other sports. Our national sport is volleyball. Like you barely hear news unless you're into your sports and you really get into local sports. You don't know who's playing for the Sri Lankan volleyball team, Sri Lankan women's netball team. Do really well. Like they're really good. Asian competitions, they're always up there. They're competing at world level. But you don't hear much about them.
I've seen whether like a handball team went to Germany and disappeared. Yeah,
Wait, what?
yeah, like
I,
like they went to Germany
I
and
know we had a handball team, but they disappeared.
disappeared. They vanished because they wanted to like
Migrate.
migrate.
What?
It
The most Sri Lankan story ever.
so what story? I'm surprised that you don't know
I
about
did
this.
not know about it. That is so. Oh my god. That is horrible. That is just horrible. But yeah, sports in general in this country is like it's different tiered level of sponsorship, different tiers. So I don't know, more sponsorship goes to like cricket and rugby and other sponsors. Yeah, other sports are not valued enough. Hopefully, the new Minister of Sports sees it in a different way and more funding would go to the other sports. Because last time one of our athletes went, didn't have shoes to wear. Sri Lankan representing Sri Lanka doesn't have freaking track shoes to wear in competing in like global events. Just ridiculous. Our carom teams are brilliant. They've always been good. Never hear much about them, but they're always really good. Um, Yeah, so seeing Sri Lankan football team rank beyond 200 is just, I don't know, it's just personally disappointing. But yeah, we have a lot of football supporters here who watch the Premier League. What's
What's the Premier League?
Oh, yeah, I'll get into all of that because
Okay.
you have national teams that compete for the World Cup every 4 years.
Okay.
So it's a global event, obviously. National team, so you're representing your country, either by birth of your parents or birth of you. You represent one country, so you can. Yeah, certain countries allow for being one parent being born in that country, so you can represent that country. Um, so national event, you qualify through your regional zones. So Asian, there's Asian qualifier, Oceanic qualifier, African qualifiers, European qualifiers, North American and South American qualifiers. They'll qualify into the final 32, or depending on the structure, final 64 or 32 teams that compete for the World Cup in once in every 4 years. You see that event is what you most probably will see. But there are qualifiers that happen during between the 4 years that you have to prove yourself that you are worthy enough to go into the finals.
I think Sri
Uh,
Lanka for the last time came on to semi-finals or something like that.
no, they've been keeping they've been losing in like qualifier rounds. They haven't been doing too well in the region at all. Not in rugby. Rugby they've been okay. They're always competing up there. Asian rugby we're doing really well. S01's also not bad. But football, definitely no, not even close to where anybody expects them to be. So it's disappointing. Um, so that's national level. That's World Cup football. But when you go into association footballs, into club level football, you can represent any club anywhere. Literally, if you are good enough and you're signed by this club, you can represent that club, train with that club, and play for that club in their games and whatever. So every country will have its own league system. So league is where all the clubs play against each other to figure out that league champion. So even so I will talk about more about England, much easier because most famous of leagues is the Football Federation of UK, England, not even UK, England. So the teams are based in Wales and England. They compete in leagues. That you'll see they play one home, one away. So the 20 teams in the Premier League. That's the top tier. Tier one, uh, the highest level of England football.
Yeah, and that
Top tier.
also has the most viewership around the world also.
Yeah, that's probably yeah,
But
definitely
other countries also have their own league.
their own system. So similar to this, every country literally has their own league system. That there are clubs that are based in that country will compete in. So in
So same as like foreign
in Sri Lanka, similar. So we have like Javelin and Columbus Sea, your Army, Navy, all competing in a league system. We have a league system. They have cup competitions here as well. Same thing. We might have different number of teams, but it's the same thing. Play in a league, play home and away. You have Kalatra FC, you have Javelin, Ratnams, everything. Same thing. Works in similar way. So in England, you have the top tier is the Premier League, the English Premier League.
It's not a knockout system; it's a point
So
system.
it's a league system. Yeah, league
Okay.
system is you play at home and away. So if we both are different clubs, then I will play at your home ones, and you play at my home ones, and you play all other the 20 teams in the top league now. So everyone will play home and away.
How is the top 20 are selected?
So you can literally so after you have the Premier League, then next bottom, so the kind of the B is the Championship. So you can promote from that, and you'll get relegated. The bottom three will get relegated into the Championship. The top three from the Championship will come into the Premier League. So you have tiered system within the leagues. So the top tier is English Premier League. The next is the Championship. Beyond that is League One, League Two, League Three, League Four, and then you have non-league football teams. So if you start a football club in England,
Then you start
right at the bottom.
bottom. Then mean
You-
League One,
Yeah, no, it's non-league football.
non-league football.
And then you start at League Four, and then League Four, League Three, League Two, League One, Championship, and EPL. So if you start a football club from the beginning, you'll start right at the bottom. You'll have to keep getting promoted. So you'll have to keep topping the table, or one, two, three, depending. You keep promoting until you get to the top. So that's how the league system works. So right from the bottom, you will come all the way to the top technically. So all these clubs have been going up and down. They've been constantly changing. And now you'll see the usual teams, like the Manchester clubs, Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham, Villa, Aston Villa, West Ham. These big clubs that are known by a lot of people. Chelsea, uh, yeah, they're based in cities, and certain cities have multiple clubs. So London's a big city. London has a lot of clubs. Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham, West Ham, all are Fulham, Crystal Palace, all are London-based. So that's where the rivalry comes also. And then in Manchester, you have two big ones: Man City and Man United.
They are
And
rivals.
they are rivals as well, because city rivals. You have Liverpool and Everton in Merseyside, so they're kind of rivals. Um, so all of these local rivals and like traditional rivals as well. United and Liverpool, traditional rivals. They have a lot of history. Uh, Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester United, all been like very historical teams. Been there for ages now. Since the league starts, literally, like like hundreds of years of history backing them.
That's the only football manager or coach that got
Uh,
third was United.
oh, sorry, Alex Ferguson.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was manager of Manchester United. So, so in the league, you'll have 20 teams competing. Whoever at the end of the 38 games is the league champion. You have knockout competitions as well within the country. So in UK, you have the FA Cup, and you have the League Cup uh, competitions within UK, so clubs for UK. So there's European competitions. The entire continent gets involved. So UK teams will play against German, Italian, French, all of
Is
them.
it as big as Premier League, the UK tournament? I mean, the Europe tournaments.
So yeah, the Champions League is pretty big deal. So you have the top teams of the top leagues coming to play against each other, seeing who would win.
So Europe. So Europe, in the sense, each country has their own league.
Yeah. Whoever's in the top,
come and
play
so
together.
it should be. It's even more competitive.
Exactly.
So the European League, it's more
So-
interesting to watch.
Yeah, the Champions League is more competitive. I don't know, interesting, but way more competitive because you have the top teams from different countries coming and
So
playing.
that's the Champions League.
Champions League. That's the European Champions League, UEFA Champions League.
So even the England one is called the Champions League.
It's called the Premier League
Okay, sorry. And the second one is called the Champions League.
or the Championship.
Championship. Okay.
It's okay. Yeah, so Champions League is a European competition. So even in Asia, there's a Asian football AFC. So all the countries will represented by different clubs. The top tier clubs will come and battle it out. So similar in African Cup of Nations. You have South America, you have North America. Everybody has their own continent cup as well.
And each of them are managed by individual bodies of.
Yeah. So European body, you have a separate African body. You have all coming under the FIFA. So FIFA is the overall governing body of football.
So they set rules,
Yeah,
regulations,
yeah, basically.
and they are technically non-profit.
The regulatory body. So FIFA goes as the global brand of governing football, and then you have the several continental bodies controlling, regulating the leagues. So the leagues will come under the European country will come under the European Commission, and then that commission will come under FIFA. So that's tiered.
Is there a certain level of quality or this thing you need to maintain to be part of? Say if you are a new country, let's say you create that's a new country,
Right.
and you want to create a football team.
Right.
That football team need to perform a certain way to be recognized in this continental battles. I mean,
Right, as a country, it's a national team or as a club?
Okay, okay, okay. Okay, okay. Now I get it. Okay.
National team will compete at national level.
National.
So countries will only compete against countries. So those competitions are different to club tiers. So in club level, I can represent a club in UK if they decide, if Manchester United are listening and want to sign a player. So if they sign me, I can play for a club in the UK. So that doesn't matter. But at national level, you'll be competing for your national country.
Okay.
So the national teams will play against the national teams. The club levels, it will stay club level. So every club will have its own country. So they'll play in that league, in their competitions within that country.
Okay.
And also the continent will have competitions for the top teams as well. So if they qualify, then they can come and compete as well. So that's general how the whole system works. Obviously, my personal favorite is Manchester United. Yeah, so I've been following them for like
The
10
most
years.
famous league is from England
Yeah,
and Premier League, and those where lots of people that get viewership from.
yeah, a lot of the views right now, I guess, the Premier League, but definitely the Bundesliga, the German league, the Spanish league, La Liga, Serie A, Italian league. The others have the English Premier League. It's just that it's way more competitive because you have multiple teams that are very very good. Whereas in Germany, you have two, maybe three teams that are good. In Spain, you have two, three teams that are good. So you constantly see the same teams winning again and again. It's a bit more repetitive. So it doesn't feel as competitive enough when you compare to the English Premier League, where you have like 10, 12 teams always beating each other. So it's always competitive. Or every weekend, you'll have a big game. So you'll have big teams competing other every weekend. So it's way more engaging.
So what sort of a system that England implemented for them to have such a high competition? Because
I guess it's a lot
can
of
you say that or
yeah, it's a lot of funding also, and also ownership of the club. So they can direct in a way. The problem is that money is involved. So a lot of the big club, some of the big clubs in England, Manchester City and Chelsea, came with money. So they were literally brought up because of money. In 2004, a Russian owner bought Chelsea. He pumped in a lot of money, brought a lot of good players in, and they started winning. So it's a very new winning club. They have history, but then only recently they have found that much of success. Same with City. Manchester City also 2008. I believe the uh, Middle East owner pumped in a lot of money, started buying players, and they saw a lot of success in the recent. So those two clubs have very recent history with success. Not unlike Arsenal, Liverpool, and Manchester United. They've been historically good. They've been building their image
and this thing?
yeah, their value and their branding has been building for so long. The historic money, I guess, and their owners also pumping a lot of money because it's all monetized. It's all branding. It's all sponsorship. So now it feels a lot more monetized than before, and you feel the game's also a little different because of the money. And now it's where you expect the players to be always good. So there's always constant pressure. But it also gives a lifeline for people who have so much talent. If they get identified by a club, it's a big lifeline for struggling communities like Mbappe, uh, or Neymar.
Okay, how would you? So you are like a really you're amateur level footballer, right? How would you be? And you're a really good footballer. How would you be recognized and be recruited?
So each club has their own scouting and recruiting teams or recruiting managers who will actually go and research. They'll be looking out for new talent. They'll be going into actual field work to see in local leagues or small school level even, trying to find players who would actually come up in the system. So if I'm a football player playing in my own country, playing in some club, I want to get first. I'll try and get famous in my club. And if some recruit is coming, looking at different matches, I want to perform for them. So if they start saying, "Oh, I'm a good player," then they'll report back to club and they'll actually see if I'm worthy of that investment. If I can go there and prove myself in their training, then evaluation, then I can get drafted into their youth system or youth leagues. And they have so under 21s, under 23s. They have their B teams also playing.
So that process follows the same system.
Exactly. Everybody has an academy also. So all the big clubs will have an academy. They're actually training youngsters.
They
From body
compete with each other's academies.
Yeah,
Also.
yeah, yeah. They compete against each other as well. So there's a Premier League 2 that plays under 21s only. So you're competing. So there's a lot of competition beyond the big team. So you have the reserve teams. So there's a progression. Definitely, there's definitely a progression. So if you want to start up from the bottom, you'll probably start up with your local team, your church team, or your youth teams. Then see recognized, get picked up by a local club, maybe a small club. Then get maybe picked up by a youth academy, like a big club, and then start playing.
Then grow there.
Yeah, then grow from there. So it's a natural progression, and you might get picked up if you start playing good for, I don't know, Tottenham, and then someone sees in Real Madrid sees you're good, and they'll be okay to pay that amount of transfer money for someone like you. Then they want.
That's the next question I wanted to ask. Like you said that you can buy players, right?
Yeah.
Like
So the club system, you can trade, you can loan, you can buy players. So they don't. They are. It's almost like the club owns that player. Now they are loaning or trading or selling that player for the club transfer.
So that's also so. For example, you're a really good player in that particular club. Okay, you're playing really well, but you don't have a say in which club that you end up in.
Sometimes, but no, it's within the contract. So every player will have their own contracts written up with the club. So in that contract, they'll outline, okay, I'm okay being transferred. Or I'm okay going into these clubs. So it depends on the contract that you sign with the club as well. So that will dictate the terms of transfer and all of that. So that's why it gets a bit complicated when transfers things happen and don't happen and why it happened. Then the agents get involved, entire law process and everything.
Each player has their own agent.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So each player is represented and stuff. But yeah, like I'm not a big fan of like transferring clubs and stuff. Just a lot of money pumped in to get good players, and it might not even work. So
Could you technically say that football is so in online gaming? There's a system called play to win. So there are some games uh, pay to win. So not pay to win.
right,
Basically, so if you have a special item,
all right,
okay, you and there's a cash system in place. You pump in a lot of money and can get that item.
yeah.
So could you say that for the football this thing?
Right now, it does feel like that. It does, which is unfortunate because a team in Paris, they've been just throwing money at football, literally. Like 200 million for a footballer, transfer fee, $200 million for a footballer. So they bought like two players, amazingly good. That's the side, but they're just throwing money at a problem and trying to solve it. And it's happening everywhere now. Like even German league or like even the UK, it's just big clubs with a lot of money backing them. They're just buying out big players or buying out very valuable players for their teams and hoping it will work. And managers as well, trying to recruit really good tactical managers as well. With a big pay. I'm not saying people shouldn't be paid for their services, footballers, but you just throwing your money at a problem and try to solve it. Because football is much more fun than just thinking about money and trying to be political about it. Just 11 players against 11. At the end of the day, it should be 11 players against 11 players and see who comes on top. And that's the best thing about football. Like sometimes you will see, not sometimes, most probably the underdog wins, and that's just joyful to watch.
Okay, so I just wanted to know so how like the
Positions.
positions in not the positions like so I know there's a manager, a coach, but the
Alright.
coach is also a manager, so I'm confused.
Oh, so technical terms, it doesn't necessarily mean much, but a manager of the club is technically involved in how the club's football side of things run. So the manager is involved in recruiting as well. He'll say, okay, to this player bought in, and he'll control the tactics of the game. the manager, technically. That term is interchangeable with coach as well. So if there's a manager, then the role of the coach is uh, the skill side of footballers. So he'll be training them skills wise. So here and their routines, to scheduling, to their workouts, to their footballing skills, training them, coach. So manager is tactician, who's overall running how that team plays.
The technical aspect, like
Yeah,
which position who should pass to
yeah,
their
exactly. Strategy and tactics. And the manager interchangeable, but yeah. But yeah, it's 11 against 11. Should be that always. Yeah, it's a lot of fun actually. Get into it. Maybe get into futsal. Helps with your cardio. Uh, yeah, that's probably for now about football. We'll definitely get back into it. But something else that's caught my mind recently is that Apple just released a $500 headset, which is just beyond me, literally beyond me. I don't understand why these things are so expensive. I've never bought an iPhone, so yeah, I'm very skeptical about Apple.
There is a term called I think it's a pretty self-explanatory. It's called Apple tax. So an Apple product has a like a tax, like rather than like for an example, like you can buy a much for the same quality you can buy a much more cheaper uh,
Android.
cheaper headphone,
All right.
right? But funnily enough, in the audiophile community, that the $500 they easily buy like $1,000 headphones.
They would. Someone would.
Yeah, in the audiophile community, they would
Right.
buy 1,000.
Okay.
But on a consumer, on a general consumer, electronic consumer, I think
Nobody wants a
stupid.
500.
Yeah, like stupidly expensive. But there are people who still buy it.
Yeah.
So the whole Apple tax problem. So first you need to understand how Apple as a company has positioned themselves. Okay, so like Apple is like very vertically integrated, right? They from supply chain to, I think they don't source their own parts. They design everything. So from the bottom top till to distribution and selling, they are in control. Okay, so and they don't outsource, like they don't have licensing. Like, so for example, if you are a Windows service, Windows laptop, you basically buy a license from Windows.
Right.
But Apple has their own OS. Okay, so they are very vertically integrated. So so then they can optimize each and every single part of the chain of the products that goes through, right? Because of that, Apple has positioned themselves as a company that provides support.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Beyond the product, then there's
Yeah. So for an example, I think like let's take smartphones. Okay, one of the major problems that uh, smartphones Android users have is something called fragmentation. Okay, and Android is open source. That means anyone can buy a license. No need to buy a license. If you want to have Google Play installed, you need to pay a small license fee to Google basically, but that's small. So anyone can like pay a license fee to Google, and I can say, okay, I want to create my own phone, so I can go to Google, get a license, and get a phone done, right? So because of that, so and I can go into the market and produce myself as this thing, and I can sell my phones. And like there are so many companies. There is HTC, there is Samsung, there is so many type of phone manufacturers, and each of them have different versions of Android also. And it depends. So Android upgrade and security patches also is not depend on Google. Okay, it's they will release a major Android this thing, but specified for this particular phone that you have,
the brand holds it.
the company that manufactured the phone is responsible for. So that's what fragmentation is. So like the different, like so many different versions of Android out there. Okay, but Apple, since they like control everything from the software aspect to the hardware aspect, they provide support for longer.
Right.
Okay, so so in reality, okay, Apple tax is real. Okay, the Apple products are generally tend to be more expensive,
Way more expensive.
way more expensive. But now, like there are certain Android phones like Samsung.
Yeah, they're trying to
Samsung
do the
also
same thing.
price their phones similarly. Okay,
Which I don't understand why either.
yeah, so they price their phones similarly because they're in competition. Obviously, there's competition between Samsung and Apple. But the and if you're willing, so the question that you have to ask is, if let's say you're like a newborn baby coming into the smartphone game, and you are choosing whether Apple or Samsung. Okay, Android. Okay.
Is it Android or Samsung?
Let's say
Example say.
example say Samsung. Okay. The mindset that you should have is, am I buying this phone for the brand value, or I would get more functionality out of this particular brand, Apple or Samsung? Because Apple tends to be a more premium like brand, because and there's a brand value to it, and I hate that fact. I am okay with people, like most of our friends have Apple iPhone phones.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know for what reason they wanted iPhone phones, but like the status,
Yeah.
because the status you are going to buy them, I think that's really stupid of you.
Yeah.
Because you can go for Samsung and pay the much money and get the same level of experience, right? So, but if, I mean, think about it. But if you are willing to pay the Apple tax, you have more support for it. So, rather like most of the flagship, they support.
Pretty well.
Like 4 or 5 years they support, but Apple for sure, if you get a phone, then you know that they will support it like 4 years down the line, and you can use it for 4 years. So in that way, the tax is justified. Okay. Another way, the Apple has phones and they have computers also, so they have workstations. Okay. In that only also the Apple tax makes sense based on what type of tool stack you use. Say for example, you're a creative person. Okay, if you're a creative person and you have your own software tool stack, right? So whether it's Creative Cloud, or this thing, or like an Apple based, so let's take video editing. Okay, that is Final Cut Pro, and that is Adobe Premiere. Final Cut Pro is Apple own product. Adobe Premiere Pro is Adobe own product. Okay, so and you're not thinking, okay, I'm gonna buy a workstation to, you're a pro consumer. Okay, you're a video
Heavy
editor,
user, yeah.
heavy user. Okay, and you're like thinking, okay, should I go for a MacBook Pro? Sorry, not a MacBook Pro. Gotta go for a Mac or a equivalently priced PC, like your custom built PC. Okay. In that case, okay, you need to think, okay, what's my tool stack? Okay, because Adobe is it's a software that runs both on both platforms. But since of the Apple tax, you can get the same spec on a PC for lower price. Obviously, you should go to, obviously, if you are like thinking now, you're getting
Functionally and price.
device, yeah, this is less money for the same amount of this thing. So obviously, it's more profitable for you to go. But if you are a Final Cut user, obviously you can't run it on Windows. Plus, it gives you, like Apple, since they have control over everything, they have optimized the software to a level that you can like easily like put up videos. Okay, so you don't need to spec it as much as you need to. You can lower spec it and get like a higher performance out of it. So the Apple tax is real. Okay. On
Brand value.
this thing, Apple tax is real on stuff. Apple tax, but it's justifiable. It dependent on your use case. Okay, so that's what, like for example, if you're a Final Cut Pro, you need if you use Final Cut Pro, you need a Mac and you need to pay that tax, and if you're a pro consumer, obviously you will sell your product in a way that you could recover the price of this thing, after this.
The investment.
Yeah, but the Apple tax is really stupid on accessories like headphones. Their charges are really expensive.
Getting rid of the jack.
Yeah,
Usability is just going down and down.
cables are ridiculously priced, and stuff like that. Like for an example, the jack, the lightning cable. So the headphone, like it's called the AirPod Max Pro. No, the AirPod Max, the headphones.
Right.
Because the AirPod Max. Okay, it comes with the cable, but it's a charging cable. It's not a data cable. Okay, so that's it's like sorry, it's just the cable. It's like you're just disconnecting two wires, and you're saying, and it doesn't make sense, right? But it's not a data cable. If I lost my phone's data cable, I can still use that. So like stuff like that, right? Like then if you need data cable, you go buy another data cable. So in that, so that's where the Apple tax. It's like really stupid. Okay, for chargers, they don't include a charger with the phone. You need to buy so earlier they had fast, the phone has fast charging capabilities, but
Charger.
yeah, they don't send it with a charger which is capable of producing that much of power. So like that, and accessories only, the Apple tax is like real, like. So this is not my own opinion. This is actually what my brother told me. So that made a lot of sense. That's where Apple tax is a real thing.
Yeah, I'm definitely a bit more anti-Apple than your view, I guess, because the allegations of slowing down older phones for updating.
Yeah, they did that. Yeah.
So they were convicted of that. It's not. It's out there. Plus, there are China links. There are production ethical background of Chinese producers. So that's also again gray, dark area for them. Uh, and also just being a capitalist, I guess, anti-capitalist of me, just thinking, how does a company get rich? It's by producing at such a low cost, keeping out ethics aside, they produce at such a low cost and sell it at a stupidly overpriced value, which
Very
doesn't
true.
make sense.
Yeah, true, but that doesn't mean only Apple does it. Even
Exactly.
Samsung does it.
Everyone does it. Just capitalism everywhere. So it happens everywhere. Yeah.
Okay, we have one more topic to cover, but I'll end with this and we'll go to the next topic. But I think people who buy the flagship phones are really stupid. Okay,
I agree.
because
I've used my Android for 4 years now.
yeah, smartphones are at a point and they are revolutionized and they are like so modified. I mean, so optimized that you can get a budget phone which performs really well.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can like for maximum like 50-60,000. Can you put in 50-60,000? You can get a solid
Very
phone
good phone. Yeah.
with the solid performance for you to make calls, to install apps. Because by these ridiculous price points are because the flagship needs to be a flagship. It needs to stand out, right? That's why this ridiculous amount of price, and they have ridiculous features also, which you don't need. Okay, so if you yeah, which you basically if you're a normal, if unless you're a pro consumer or you're a professional level user, if you're a normal person, you just need to make calls, you just need to receive emails. For that, a 60,000
Social
rupees
media,
phone, social
exactly.
media, a good camera, a 60,000 rupees phone is
Does really well.
does really well. Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually a pretty good episode, actually.
Yeah.
We're good with that.
The next topic that we're going to talk about. Have you heard about this robot called the Spot?
No,
Okay,
no.
it's the Spot. So there's a robotics company called the Boston Dynamic. Okay, they make really cool robots. Okay, they made a robot. Okay, which walks on four legs. Okay, and it can self-level itself. It can depend on terrain. It can base its footing. It can climb stairs. Okay, and it can pull up to like 2 tons amount of force. It can
On
pull
its own.
on its own. Okay, so Spot is like you go on Spot. Let's go just go on YouTube and type Boston Dynamic. Get some crazy videos what they did for with these robots. Spot is their first commercially available robot that they have built. So apparently, the car company Hyundai has bought Boston Dynamics. Okay, and they have a concept where for walking cars. So people are speculating that's why they bought.
Transformers.
Yeah, they because they have a vision of walking cars, so that's why they bought this. But more realistically, they bought it for the business reasons.
Yeah,
But
probably.
I found it funny that they have an idea for a walking car and they bought Spot, which is a walking four-legged tree like
Yeah,
robot.
maybe to develop the self-driving cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-driving car is another topic that we could talk about,
Yeah.
but not for this episode. So that is pretty much it. M94.
It was a long one.
That was a long one. This I think we talked about football a lot, and I rambled around for on Apple Texas, so it took. These are like wow, almost like 45 minutes.
Last episode there. Yeah.
Yeah, longest episode, and we'll stop right here. Bye.